Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service, award-winning business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that appreciates what matters most to businesses: practical advice and cost-effective results. We understand your business because our team has the unique perspective of having real-world business experience themselves. Learn more at gertzberglaw.com. While you're there, be sure to check out Cover My Six, a proprietary legal audit that will identify, target, and minimize your business's exposure to lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how you can prevent a lawsuit before it starts. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
If there's any one thing to success that's above everything else, it's persistence.
Yeah.
Constantly trying.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Thanks for tuning in to Best Podcast Ever, because that's what it is. I appreciate it. This will be a fun one. Chuck Mullen. If you guys don't know Chuck, you ought to know Chuck. First of all, if you can look at Chuck's picture and tell me he ain't the spitting image of Don Rickles, then I say them's fighting words, because he is the incarnation of Don Rickles. And if you don't know who Don Rickles is, then you're missing out, because he's one of the funniest, or was, I think he died not long ago, was one of the funniest comics ever. But we talked about a lot of non-funny things, but I guess they're fun things. And by that, I mean fun for business owners to think about: transitions, liquidity events, exits. Chuck, like the episode before this one with TJ Gliha, I've made no secret about what I want to do with this podcast. I'm doing this largely for selfish reasons. I like learning from people who are way smarter than me, which ain't hard because I ain't that smart. Chuck and TJ, if you want to learn about exit strategies, I'm talking about exiting a business, these are two great episodes to listen to. TJ and Chuck know a lot about succession planning and exit strategies for entrepreneurs, for founders. With Chuck, we really covered a lot about that topic, but we talked about Transcendental Meditation quite a bit. We talked about life a lot. I really enjoyed talking with Chuck, and I think you'll enjoy listening to this conversation. So enjoy this episode with Chuck Mullen. He is the chairman of Apple Growth Partners. He is a CPA by trade and training. But as you'll hear, what he and what Apple Growth Partners do is not your traditional CPA work. They kind of wrap their arms around their business clients, their entrepreneurs, and they help them move on from one part of their entrepreneurial life to the next part. Chuck helps his clients buy and sell themselves, find buyers and sellers. Definitely does a lot more for them than their taxes. So enjoy this episode. Enjoy Chuck Mullen. Really fun conversation. And thanks. Chuck Mullen, how are you?
Alex, how are you?
Fantastic.
Good to be here, man.
Thanks for coming over.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
I parked in the front. That's fine, right? 3 hours.
Probably.
I didn't see a meter, so what am I supposed to do?
I think you're okay. Did you see all those Save Grove Hill signs?
No.
You were driving in? No, you didn't?
No, but you had a podcast about that.
That was
I was listening to it. I pull in.
That's Grove Hill.
Oh, that's Grove Hill.
We are on Grove Hill that they are trying to save.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's
I've
been
never saved a hill before. I don't know this stuff.
Some are arguing that the hill needs to be saved, that it is in peril.
Okay.
A fella is trying to build a couple of properties.
Okay.
He originally wanted to tear down this colonial looking, Victorian looking house. It's called the Bancroft House.
Okay.
It's actually, I mean, if you're here anyway, go drive by.
I do not want to get drug into the middle of a Chagrin Falls political dispute. I have a firm to run, and I try to stay agnostic when it comes to political issues. And Alex, how dare you try to pull me into the middle of this? I see where this is going. No,
Chuck,
just kidding.
Chuck, you just passed the most important test of Best Podcast Ever. Can Alex make this a controversy? Can Alex pull you into?
I guarantee you, I have a client in Chagrin Falls that's going to take a position. Take a position with me on this. So,
Chuck, you guys have been on a tear. Apple Growth Partners. I've been following you. I've been following your story. It seems like you're on a shopping spree or a growth. You're putting the growth in Apple Growth Partners. Is that right? Is that a fair statement?
That's a great way. That's my new tagline. That's really. I like that.
Chuck Mullen. I put the growth in Apple Growth Partners.
Yes, right.
No, seriously, you guys have really. I mean, give me some data there. Like you've gone from what to what and how long?
So in 2016, we acquired a firm here and actually not in Chagrin Falls, in Beechwood, just over yonder, and then we acquired another firm out of Kent called Schlabig. So we did that in 2016, 2017, and doing that plus organic growth. And also opening an office in Canton from scratch, we've pretty much doubled our size since 2016. So we were about, I'm going to say 11 million in revenue in 2016, and right now we're pushing around 19 to 20 million in revenue. Wow. So we're not quite double, but we're getting there. And it kind of happened overnight with the acquisitions. So,
and you are not just a CPA firm, is that right? You guys are. Well, don't let me put words in your mouth. Tell me how not just a CPA firm you are.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We fancy ourselves on being business advisors, and we like to live by example. So the word growth in our name is all about, we're going to help a client grow their business. And we just felt that, hey, if we're going to be given that kind of advice on how to grow, we better be growing ourselves too. So we are absolutely, positively not your typical accounting firm. We have a checklist called the Healthy Growth Checkup Process, and we'll actually sit down with a client several times a year and go through this checklist that we've developed over a 20-year period on best business practices. And we're constantly updating it. It's not just accounting and tax, but it's also, technology and marketing and all that good stuff. And even stuff that we're not really that good at because we're not really technologists or whatever, but we have strategic relationships with people that can do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I've been thinking about our law firm the same way lately. Like, you kind of want to create this wrap around your client, right, of professional services.
You've done a great job at it.
Oh, well,
seriously, because I actually had you on our podcast and you described the Cover My Six concept. I think it's groundbreaking.
I appreciate the compliment. I was only partially fishing for one. No. But I think that is the right model, because clients who come to you for one thing, but who leave with they come to you for an experience, right?
Yes.
They come to you to receive a sense of confidence and a vision.
Every customer out there, client, customer, whatever you want to say, everybody wants an experience for sure.
Yeah, and the folks out there, I tell my lawyers, there's 10,000 lawyers out there. There's 10,000 CPAs out there. And the ones that are going to grow are the ones that are going to think of themselves not as a CPA and not as a lawyer, but as someone who's creating a really good experience for their clients beyond the thing that they just came to see you for.
You better differentiate yourself, and you better be able to do it in 5 seconds. You've got to get that message out in 5 to 10 seconds and be different. You're absolutely right, Alex. Yes.
Yeah. And so I like the checklist. I like the periodic meetings. Think of the last client that you had that came to you for to have their taxes done, and
Mm-hmm.
and who you were able to help in a way that
In a massive way.
that was more than just a cost center for
Yeah.
them, right? Helping them grow their business, find customers, streamline better, whatever it is. Is there someone, without naming names, that comes to mind, a success story that really kind of personifies or embodies what Apple does for its clients?
Yeah. Quite a few, actually. Yeah. Do you want me to give an example?
We're going to go through every one of them, and we're not leaving until you.
Oh, gosh, it's so
No.
boring.
Yeah, no. Throw one out. I want to experience what your clients experience, but in a real way, the way one has.
So I'll give you one. I've got a client that this is where, experience can come up in everyday life. So I have a client that we just took over the account, and we were arguing with the Ohio Department of Tax on whether he owes this specific tax or not, right? It's not a ton of money, but it's an aggravating amount of money. And it was about to go to the Ohio Attorney General's office, right? So I think most accountants would say, let's dig in and let's fight this right now. The challenge is, because I'm close to him in his business, I also know that his credit score is everything, because he is personally guaranteeing loans on lots of business loans, lots of real estate loans, etc. So my light bulb went off, and I said, hey, wait a second, pay the tax, get it paid. I don't know if it's correct or not yet, but
Yeah. We can always amend later.
You can always amend later. Your credit score is much more important. So, I had a couple of people in my office saying, hey, this is going to go to the Ohio Attorney General's office, and we need to, argue for the tax. And I said, no, pay it now. Get that paid now. The credit score is everything to this guy. This $1,200 tax bill, not so much right now, but the credit score could cost this guy hundreds of thousands in opportunities. So having an eye for things like that, being able to make a quick decision, I think is really important to a client. Yeah. You got to understand the full picture of the person's life. So someone might say, oh, you laid down and paid the tax, right? Yes, we did. We're going to, like you said, amend later. But we solved a much more critical, urgent problem and keeping his credit. Once something goes to the Ohio Attorney General's office, gets on a credit score, that's going to linger around a long time.
Yeah. You know what I forgot to do? We jumped right into it, Chuck, and just started having fun immediately. Lately, I've been trying to start our podcast with with wins, right?
Oh, yeah.
One personal, one business. What's a recent personal and what's a recent business win for you?
Yeah, personal win. I have. I think as long as I've been an adult, I've always struggled with my weight, up and down, up and down.
You look so svelte.
Thank you. Gee, I'm not taking you seriously.
No, I mean it. You look fantastic.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. But I would say my weight just crazily ballooned last year. It's just something I don't keep an eye on. So I've lost probably about 20 pounds since November, and that's through the holidays into the new year, using intermittent fasting. And I didn't know if that was something I've been reading about. I didn't know if I could pull off intermittent fasting, and learned that I could enjoy it. It gives me a feeling of empowerment, but also it cuts weight too.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more than I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So moderation doesn't work out too well for me. So this intermittent fasting was pretty neat. And I just read about it. I didn't get a book or anything. I just read it in an article and thought I'd give it a try. And I've actually enjoyed it and lost weight.
I'm imagining what the Chuck Mullen experience is like when he's like hangry.
Hangry.
I'm like, I wonder what that looks like. I could kind of see you blowing your top, at people, yes. but you seem so jovial and good natured that it seems surreal.
I probably just keep it to myself.
Yeah, right.
As my wife always tells me, she said, nobody knows when you're angry. Like I'll think I blew up at someone because that's not a blow up.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great quality.
I suppose so.
Even tempered.
Pretty even tempered.
Equanimity.
I've had to work at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business win. Recent business win.
Yeah, recent business win. So we just won an award that we'd never won before. It's called the Smart Business, Smart Culture Award.
Wow. That's
and
huge.
I was really happy about that. The reason that's a business win is I really focus my efforts on inside the firm. So I do want growth. I do want better client experiences. I want more clients, more client wins, more revenue growth. But I take an inside-out approach. I work on the inside of the firm. So I figure if we can hire the best people and keep them engaged and make them thrilled to come to work every day, all that other stuff is going to take care of itself. And so far, that's turning out to be true. And so anytime we win a culture award, I am just so pumped about it because it means those are not real easy to win. So it means we're doing some pretty progressive things inside the firm.
Yeah, no, and it says a lot about your organization. It says to me that the people enjoy working there. And I mean, that's what you want. You're managing partner there, Chuck. I mean, you've got to be so proud of the fact that you don't get recognition for something like that unless the people there. And Smart Business is a pretty reputable publication.
Yeah. And we didn't get it last year, so it's an improvement too. You know,
that's fantastic.
Like we tried last year, we did not get it. So if anything, it's just an improvement.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I tell these guys all the time, we spend more time together than we do with our families.
Yes.
So if you know that, then we better have the kind of culture that draws you here, where you're not here just to earn a paycheck or to punch the clock. You're here because you want to be here, because you're doing the things you want to be doing, and because the experience of being here brings you joy.
Exactly.
And if you can check those boxes for most of your employees, man, that is a great culture.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think too, I still when I left college at age 21, graduated from college, went right to work full time in an adult job, public accounting. It was a traumatic experience because you show up at 8:00, you don't leave till after 5, and when you're not used to that, because you're a kid. I worked odd jobs, but I never worked a steady, consistent 8 to 5 job every day where people's, careers are kind of, people are really depending on really top-notch service. It was extremely stressful. And I thought, my gosh, is this what adults do? Like, this is, in a way, it's kind of like jail, right? When you come out of college, you're kind of you go to work every day. You are in a program. You're in a routine where you got to get up at the same time every day. And, there is a lack of freedom there, right?
Right.
And I thought to myself, man, how do adults do this day in and day out? Well, I started to realize if I could. I started to realize how important a culture is then.
Mm-hmm.
I started to really admire the working person, and that's everybody.
Yeah.
People get up at a certain time every day. They go to work, they work hard, they stay focused. They go home and then they get up and do it again the next day. It was so incredible to me at that age 21 that, wow, people actually do this, that culture became a big deal to me. And I thought if I could just have an impact on a workplace, that would be a really nice thing to do. Awesome. I feel terrible for people that go to workplaces every day that are just harsh, that are hard to work for, because, you wake up in the morning, you're not always in the mood to get going, but you've got to do it every day.
Right. My personal win is, do you know about EO?
I do.
Yeah, I just started it. I just got accepted into it. I just started it this year. It's like one of the greatest things in the world. Anyone who has the opportunity to check out EO and apply for it, and if you're fortunate enough to be accepted into it, it is an amazing organization.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I that would be a business win, but I'm making it a personal win because I've always sort of I've heard about it and studied it and talked to people that I really, really admire that are in it, and just started it this last month. I'm really proud of that. And then our business win is, we just had, it's February already. I don't know if this counts, but we just had a really good year. We finished the year really strong. We did 30.
Congratulations.
Thanks. We did like 30% better than last year.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm happy about it.
That is significant growth.
Yeah. I think those are my wins. Okay, back to the Chuck Mullen story. Give me the when I think CPA, Chuck, words that come to mind generally, and I'm going to try not to be insulting here to any CPAs out there, but the words that come to mind are not like exciting, are not like adventurous, sexy. I mean, present company. You're a sexy dude.
Thank you so much.
Other than you, but like, and I also have kind of a love-hate relationship because with accounting, because I failed it twice at Miami, and just had to drag myself to class, and my brain just is not wired for accounting. It's just, what made you choose that profession and say, by God, I want to do accounting. I want to be a CPA.
The story I tell is common to a lot of CPAs out there. It's that I went to the College of Business at the age of 18, right? Or age of 19, whatever year you are. I just really didn't know of all those majors what I wanted to do. And I realized that accounting was probably a really good one, a good solid one. So it was kind of a placeholder until I could figure things out. Well, I never did figure things out. I ended up graduating with the darn degree. And so here I am. I graduated with an accounting degree. Well, then what? What's the next step? Well, I guess I better go work for a public accounting firm. I mean, when you're that young, you just don't know what the heck you're doing. And you're making these huge life decisions, right? So I went to work for public accounting. Like I said, it was traumatic because you're kind of thrust into the adult world. And after about 6 months, I was just it was driving me crazy that I was going to a place every day that I was incompetent at because I'm brand new, right? I'm young. And, but I started getting good at it. You do a job enough, you're going to start to get good at it. So after about 6 months, I started to turn a corner. And I'd been through so much that first 6 months of just being incompetent and not liked because I was bad at my job. Yeah. I was actually starting to make a contribution, and I kind of got addicted to that feeling. I thought, I've been through so much these past 6 months. I'm actually getting good at this. So the feeling of just being good at the job kept me going in public accounting. And then, I guess the rest is history. So there wasn't a grand plan. There wasn't a day that I woke up and said, gee, I have to be a public accountant. It just kind of evolved because I knew I liked business.
Well, the thing of it is, some of my heroes, entrepreneurial heroes, the CEOs of the largest companies on the planet. I just finished not long ago Phil Knight's book, Shoe Dog.
I've heard about that book. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my God. It's one of the best business it's a memoir about Nike, about how Nike got started. So first of all, everyone should read that book, particularly people who own businesses or advise businesses, because you get a much deeper appreciation for the struggle of an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Only to see that, and then it turns into Nike.
Right.
But like, most of the book is just one struggle after another, just the stresses of it and the it's just constant catastrophes. Yeah. But he had a very clear set of core values for him, and they were so clear that no matter what happened, they drove him forward, and it permeated through the entire Nike culture, the entire Nike environment. Anyway, he's a CPA. He starts out as a CPA. And the folks with that background run great businesses. It really prepares you.
Yeah.
If you can read financial statements without having them explained to you and without having to learn how to read them as a grown-up like I did, sometimes I still don't think I know. But you have a huge advantage. You are well prepared to run businesses if you have an accounting background.
Yeah, and you've just named, I mentioned that the working person I have a soft spot for, right? Any working person that's getting up and working hard every day, I've got a soft spot for.
Yeah.
I also have a soft spot for the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, when you think about the risk they take, and I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm going to say that. I came up through a firm. Now I'm managing partner. I like to think entrepreneurially, but those people like you, right, that started something from scratch with no guarantee of revenue, there's something special about the entrepreneur. And, at our firm at Apple Growth Partners, we put the entrepreneur up on a pedestal. We realize, too, that we are the servant of the entrepreneur. We don't become the entrepreneur. We ascend to be the servant of the entrepreneur.
Well, so I'm assuming that business owners make up a large portion of your client base.
Almost entirely, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
What do you see as the most or some of the most common problems that they have that you solve for them?
Some of the lowest hanging fruit would be like succession planning.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so the business owner, everybody needs to have a succession plan, an exit plan. You don't want to get to the end of your career and have a health issue or something like that decide your exit plan where you're scrambling, right? So you want to have a succession plan. A lot of times that succession plan includes something internal, like a family member, a son, a daughter, a key employee. But those are hard conversations to have. It's much easier just to go back to business and doing what you do best. So succession planning is something that Apple Growth Partners can really help out with, because we can come in and talk through, ask those major questions, and we can have those difficult conversations on behalf of the business owner. We can be a surrogate for the business owner and actually carry out the plans without the business owner having to get his or her hands dirty, having to have those tough conversations and so forth.
Yeah. So that typically involves reviewing the company's governing documents, like their partnership agreements, operating agreements, figuring out basically what happens if you, the founder, if something happens to you, if you get divorced, if you file for bankruptcy, right? What happens to the company, right? It's the company's succession plan.
It is.
Right. And so what are some of the things that you advise your clients to think about or do with respect to succession planning?
By the way, Alex, you said something really critical there that I want your listeners to hear, and that you said it's the company's succession plan. And it's not necessarily the person anymore. So the entrepreneur starts off alone, but the entrepreneur builds an organism, really. It's an organism full of human beings that are coming to work every day and building their careers. They are stakeholders in this whole thing, the employees. So it is the company's succession, not necessarily the entrepreneurs anymore. Yeah.
We usually say it's the entrepreneur's estate plan.
Yeah. Right.
But it's the company's succession plan. That's
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
So getting back to your question, and you asked what kind of advice and so forth. This is where it can get dicey. Everybody wants their offspring to be that heir apparent, and many times that's not the best solution for the company. Many times it is, though. Many times it is, but a lot of times it's not. Where we can come in and help is we can identify whether the son or daughter is really built for this. If you put a child in that seat and they're not ready for it or they weren't built for it, it's bad for everybody, including the child. This is a tough conversation that needs to be had earlier than later. This is where we can truly help out. But we can map out competencies and say, okay, who's really not just the top job, but all the jobs, the next layer of officers and go-getters, who are they? We can identify and then start to get the training in place and actually write out the plan. This is the plan, so that everybody's on the same page and that everybody can come to work the next day saying, okay, this person here, they're going to be in my seat in 10 years or 15 years from now and so forth.
And that plan goes into is it like a memo, or is it an amendment to their partnership agreement? Is it a letter? I mean, how do you see the succession planning process playing out? What is the end sort of deliverable of it?
I see what it is it's more of a memo, not so much as a legal document. And it is something that is available to those that need to know. So, there's a lot of things in a business that you just can't be public about. Transparency is very important, but there's just some things that you can't publicize to everybody. So to the affected, those that are going to relinquish their seats someday, and those that are coming up through the ranks that are going to take those seats, I would say that memo is relevant to all of those affected people. Okay.
So you talk about succession planning. What else? What's another hot topic that you explore with your entrepreneur clients?
Mergers and acquisitions. And I feel like this is probably where I shine the most. It's where I have a lot of passion. So we at Apple Growth Partners and I as well, we're good at bringing people to the table and bringing them back to the table over and over again. So whenever I do an emergent acquisition, usually the answer is no. The answer is almost always no. If you were to call someone today and say, would you like to merge? Would you like to sell? The answer is no, right? Well, that's fine, but I want to know why. And that's hard. That's hard to get a potential seller to the table to say, okay, you said no. Now, why did you say no? What you start to find out is the reason they said no was such a doable thing. It's the easiest thing in the world to resolve. But for whatever reason, we're all wired differently. They don't think to say no, but if you did this, I'll do it. They just don't think to do that. Everybody's wired differently.
So in this conversation, your client is the seller?
A lot of times my client's the buyer.
The buyer.
And
so it's when they go to a target and say, can we buy you?
Yes.
They far too often unnecessarily hear the word no.
All the time.
Where if they talk to you, you say, go back to them and say, under what circumstances can we turn that into a yes?
Yeah, and usually it's me that's going to. I'm playing that intermediary because business owners, they're very busy. They just don't have time, or they don't have the acumen, or they just don't have the desire to have these conversations. So I'll give you an example. I have two clients right now. One client came to me and said, I want to sell. I said, great. Guess what? I got a buyer. Yeah, I got a buyer for you. I get them in the same room, and seller, for whatever reason, said, no, not now. I don't want to waste anybody's time. It's a not now. But I remember that seller coming to me a few months ago saying, I want to sell. So what changed their mind? And that takes some investigative work. So you got to really sit down and say, tell me you were ready to do it, but why not now? Well, this isn't. You just keep asking why. You keep asking why. And it all comes down to, sometimes it's just that the person's emotionally not ready to give up yet. Well, okay. Who says you have to give up coming to work every day just because you sell? Well, isn't that the rule? I sell it, I can't come back. Well, heck no, that's not the rule. There are no rules, right? We can creatively map this out any way you like. So I went to the buyer and I said, can you try to draft out a situation where this seller could come to work every day? They said, well, yeah, absolutely. No one's asked us that question. Right. They said this person could fit in here, they could fit in there, they could do this. I said, put it in writing. I want to see it in writing, and do it really fast. Put it in writing really fast, because I want to be able to take this to the potential seller and say, guess what? You don't have to go home. You have a role you hadn't even thought of before. Look at this. Seller looks at it and goes, hadn't thought of that. Oh, yeah, right. You have value in the combined company. So it's just about talking. And a lot of times buyers and sellers, they don't know each other. So they don't have these conversations. So that's where someone like me or one of my partners at Apple Growth Partners can really step in and play that intermediary that gets to them.
How often are you finding the target for your client? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, it does happen a lot.
Okay.
Sometimes they know the target through some sort of relationship in a professional association, something like that. That's usually the worst situations when they know each other. Mm. And the reason why is because they feel like they know their own value. That's a problem. A lot of times, Alex, I can't tell you how many times I've had a client come to me and say, yeah, we're going to sell. We know this group in our association. Right. And I say, well, what are you going to sell for? Well, I think our inventory is worth this. I think our equipment's worth this. I'm like, are you kidding me? And you're going to sell it for that? People don't realize they have goodwill value, the multiple times future cash flows. I always tell people the most important, the most valuable asset on your balance sheet isn't even there. And what are you talking about? And I said, your goodwill value. It's your EBITDA value. Yeah, the equipment and the inventory, blah, 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 blah. That's not what you spent 30 years building is an inventory supply.
Right.
You spent 30 years building a cash flow stream. That's what people are buying. So this company you think is worth $5 million, try $20 million. They're like, whoa. So, but for whatever reason, just in my experience, that conversation usually comes because they know someone and they go, oh yeah, we know what we're worth. No, you don't.
You do valuations for your clients?
We do. We have a valuation department out of our Beechwood office. Okay. And we got a pretty strong valuation group. It's led by Jason Boneyard and Bob Nemeth in our valuation department. I think we got like 9 or 10 valuators. That's all they do is
and you also then assist your clients when they are the buyer in valuating their target.
Yep.
Right.
That's critical in a merger and acquisition. Both buyer and seller need to have a good idea of value going into this.
Yeah. Can you give me an insider's view of the M&A market right now? I mean, what's hot? Where are the highest multiples?
Well, I'll tell you what, car washes are doing pretty good right now. Those are trading about 11 multiple on EBITDA. Right? Yeah.
Wow.
We have and I know that because we have a car wash specialty.
Yeah.
And
Is that right?
That's a whole long story, but we are pretty tied to the car wash industry, which is a pretty lucrative industry. It does pretty well. Is strong more.
Yeah. Interesting.
But technology is doing well. Biotech is doing well. Manufacturers are doing well.
Really?
Manufacturing. So manufacturers, I'm seeing, I'm seeing maybe a 6, 7, maybe even an 8 multiple if it's strong. When things are kind of stagnant, those are around a 4 multiple. So it seems like all the multiples are up.
Yeah.
Car dealerships are doing great. So,
do you, I'm going to ask you unfair and uncomfortable questions right now, but how do you feel the prospects of a recession coming?
Oh, no, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of 2018, I told my partner group, I said, well, I guess, we're due. I mean, if you think about it, 2008 was 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And I have no crystal ball, but, it's got to be happening sometime. So I kind of thought 2019 would be it, 2019 came and went. I just read this morning that manufacturing is up. I don't know if you read that. There's growth. So I don't know when this darn thing's coming. Here's what I do. I hang out with wealth managers and people like that. So I try to listen to what they say. I keep hearing 2021, and I keep hearing that it's staggered. So industry by industry will experience their own recession because everything's out of sync. So there won't be a 2008. God, I hope this isn't famous last words. Burn this podcast. If we end up having another 2008, here I am saying we're not going to have one. Yeah, please. Well, please burn this podcast.
Here's the thing.
But I don't think we'll have another 2008.
You don't? Right.
Well, here's what I can tell you, Alex. The only indicators that I know of for a recession as an accountant where I sit is time. We're ripe. So the time is right. But the other thing is you start looking for those lead indicators.
Right.
And I'm not seeing those yet. I'm looking for debt collection companies to start going gangbusters. Stuff like that. I'm looking for a tell. I'm not seeing a tell yet. And every time I think I see a tell, it rebounds. So, but you're probably right. Just based on timing alone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you about a 2020 recession. You're probably right.
Here's what I'll tell you. I went to a talk a few weeks ago by a fellow who is reputed to know such things. He's like one of the talking heads on CNBC, right? And he put up chart after chart of the look back over the last 10, 20, 50 years. And now, and all indications were it's coming and it's coming this year.
I forgot about the inverted yield curve too.
Oh,
sorry, dude.
So, but here's the thing. I also read a book a long time ago called How to Lie with Statistics,
yes.
right? And what I know is if you get up there and you get to cherry pick your data, I'm probably not going to know that you're doing that.
Right.
I mean, I'm sitting there. I'm just. And by the way, here this podcast is a great example, right? Who am I? I'm a business lawyer, right? A litigator by training, and by pure, just copying other people, have learned to be a transactional lawyer. Right. And by experience. Right. But I'm not an investment guy by any means. I'm not an economist, but I went to a seminar. I went to a talk and I watched one of the guys that goes on CNBC who is, constantly being called on to do interviews. And he said, well, according to this chart, it's definitely happening. And if you look at who's in Congress here, and it's an election year here, and it's a generational decade here, and all indicators are that historically, all indicators suggest that recession is coming, and it's coming quickly, and it's going to suck, right? And so here I am, Alex Gertzberg, who doesn't know anything about that stuff other than what he hears, and I'm talking about it in a podcast. And I don't know how many people are going to be are listening to this right now, but I know it's not zero. Right. I don't know how many of them are going to be repeating what we talk about, but it's probably not zero. Right. So all of which is to say that the sewing circle that is the economy, because a lot of it is definitely like psychological, right? Panics are mob psychology, right? Come from what people think they know, come from cherry-picked data, and it creates, trends.
Economics is so hard, and I'll tell you, people say, you're a business lawyer. Well, I'm a CPA. We should know if a recession's coming, but we know a lot of things about business, but very, very, very few, if any, can predict a recession.
Well, and the other thing about it is, right? There's always. Did you ever see The Big Short?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Some of the best movies ever.
Loved it.
Whenever there's a recession.
And how did one guy? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, think about that, right? That's exactly what I was going to say. There's only ever like a small handful of people who like short the market, right? Or who go the other way and find ways to. Well, I think there's a lot of people who find ways to make money in recessions.
Yes,
but a small handful of people know how to make a killing in recessions, and those are the ones that say everybody's wrong. Right. So, what that tells me is that there are way more people who are wrong than are right.
Right. Yeah.
All of which is to say, good luck.
Yes.
Chuck. We talked about succession planning. We talked a little bit about M&A. Before we get off of M&A, what do you see, other than what you've said so far, are some common valuation problems? When do you end up, and maybe you've covered all of this already, but when do you end up like fighting, arguing with your clients, saying you're on the moon here?
Mm-hmm. That happens all the time.
I feel like that happens with me in settlement discussions a lot.
Well, you know what's funny? Yeah. So here I am talking out both sides of my mouth. So I was talking about how clients undervalue their businesses, but I didn't tell you about the ones that overvalue their businesses. And that happens quite a bit too. Where a client can be overvalued is when they don't really think about they don't put themselves in the buyer's shoes. They'll say, my company is worth this. And you think to yourself, now, wait a second, you're looking at the same numbers I am. Would you sell it for that? And a lot of times they say, no, but that's what it's going to take. Sometimes that actually does work, because they are not desperate and they just have to sell it. They can get someone with what I call deal heat, so crazy to buy their business that they'll get what they need. A lot of times companies are lacking a succession plan, as we talked about earlier. And that can definitely devalue a company, because when you buy a company, you're not just buying the hard assets, you're buying the people, the workforce in place.
And you're buying a guess about their future, which depends entirely on succession plan.
Total guess about their future, right. Correct. And if it's been revolving around one person for the last many years and that knowledge hasn't been transferred, you got a problem. You're going to take a deep discount. Someone's going to buy it at a deep discount because they're going to have to quickly play catch up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really should be talking to a business at least 5 years before they want to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
I see that in the context. I've represented a number of companies who got buyer's remorse afterwards.
Oh, yes.
Because they overvalued their plan for that company after they were going to buy it. And then diligence, that we can help them with is generally focused on the legal diligence, right? Lawsuits and, to some extent earnings, but mostly it's legal diligence, right? Title to assets, that kind of thing, contracts. But I have definitely seen a number of clients walk in with confirmation bias, right? Where they think that these are strategic buyers. They see a gold nugget there, and they're like, man, as soon as I get my hands on it, I'm off to the races. They've got 100 employees. They're about to become my employees, and I'm gonna multiply my capacity, and on and on.
Right.
And
deal heat, right?
Yeah, and then they get there and they just didn't fully appreciate that there was a culture clash, right? That there were going to be some executives that were not going to play along. They just didn't do the deep dive beyond the numbers and beyond the legal. And then, man, that is an expensive buyer's remorse. That gets really ugly.
I'm glad you brought up buyer's remorse. Is that, this thing that I'm referring to as deal heat, that's where the buyer just gets crazy. They have to have it, right?
Right.
I had this just last week with a client. The client had called me up and said, everybody is signed off on this. They want to do this. I said, all right. Tell me the new version of the deal. And when I heard it, I said, guys, you can't afford that. You cannot afford that. Has anybody put this to a model? Because this was like the 20th iteration of a deal. I said, yes, you'll get the deal done. Congratulations. But I said, what are you going to do on day 2?
Yeah.
This doesn't cash flow. Yeah. So part of that is probably my experience, my age, my Transcendental Meditation coming through, where I've learned to calm all the way down and say, guys, yes, I want this deal for you too, but watch what you wish for. And I guess what I had to do, I had to kill the deal. I killed it.
Good. Well, good for you. And
didn't feel so good, but I also knew you watch what you get. Watch what you wish for.
When I kill a deal, it's by explaining to the client what bankruptcy looks like, and by explaining to them that all of this time and effort can result in you having to sink this company into a Chapter 13,
Right.
and basically buy your way out of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What does killing the deal look like when Chuck Mullen does it?
I always say the same answer. I always say, listen, I'm all for it. I'm all for you, but this is what's happening. And I just tell them the facts. And I say, this is what your life is going to look like after you do this. And then I usually end the call by saying, and I'm begging you not to do this.
Yeah.
I've told clients before, I've gotten down and literally begged clients not to make a deal on things. That's when it's really bad.
Right.
Is when they're about to do something really dumb.
Yeah.
I will literally beg.
No, but you know what? You're saving them from themselves.
Saving them from themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a deal guy, so I usually want to see the deal close. So when I'm begging a client not to make a deal, that usually means I've seen something that's really detrimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I'm about to start asking you a lot of TM questions, and before we do, I want to make sure that we close out this topic. Entrepreneurs that you have been working with, you talk to them about succession planning. You talk about M&A. Obviously, you talk about taxes.
Yes.
Anything else that is a hot, important topic that you make sure you cover with your clients?
Yeah, always sales and marketing. I mean, the top line cures all ills. It truly does. The top line. And in this environment we live in, meaning planet Earth today, you have to be so innovative. You have to be constantly changing your approach. We help clients with their top line by asking tough questions and even bringing in strategic partners that are skilled in sales and marketing to really assess, are they still relevant? Is their product still relevant? Are they innovating? So we not only work on keeping the bottom line healthy through tax savings and expense savings and so forth, but the top line is an area that we hit hard as well.
Let's put a plug in for your strategic partners. Who do you like out there?
Oh yeah, strategic partners
for the sales and marketing folks.
Well, it's interesting. For some sales and marketing, we can do that in-house because we actually have a really skilled director of marketing.
That's unusual for a CPA firm right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Sales and marketing is actually something, it's actually a service that we do provide to our clients on an as-needed basis, especially when it comes to digital marketing and things like that. But from a strategic approach, I'll give a plug. I've got my good friend John Blakeney is a very good strategic coach when it comes to helping a business owner think through sales and think through strategic planning with regard to sales. We've got a strategic partnership with a number of ad agencies that are out there, and I don't want to pit them against each other, so I won't say
that's totally
their
fine.
names.
Yeah,
I'll also say too, we have tremendous sales trainers out there, like Marvin Montgomery, who is a guest on your show,
yeah.
correct? Now,
Marvin
is a guy I will plug all day.
Yeah,
and he's
the Marvinator, or is it the Marvinizer?
Get Marvinized.
Get Marvinized.
He's actually been on my podcast.
Has he?
Too.
He's fantastic. I love
He
Marvin.
works with us at Apple Growth. So sales trainers like that, or even Mike Rayo at DS Benefits is a tremendous person when it comes to sales training. So we have these strategic partners out there. Or sometimes it's product innovation where you need to bring in a consultant to just help you rethink product.
It's fantastic that you bring that to the discussion, Chuck. This goes back to really wrapping your arms around your business clients, right? Being more than a CPA for them. That's fantastic.
At our firm, it truly is a labor of love.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur is just so revered in our firm. The person, our firm was started by an entrepreneur, a guy by the name of Jay Heineck back in 1943. Much like you started your place here. You start somewhere, you start with nothing, and you grow it. And so it is truly a labor of love.
Yeah. Transcendental Meditation.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think we talked about it a little bit over lunch. You and I are both meditators.
Yes.
I do Vipassana, insight meditation. You do something that it kind of scares me a little bit, but I know just because the mantra piece of it is, gosh, people just swear by it though. I mean, people, I mean, it's been meditation has been life-changing for me. Yeah. And let me shut up. How long ago did you start?
So I started 2 years ago. 2 years ago this January.
And what's your practice, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah,
sure.
What
does it look like?
Yeah. So I sit down. Alex, if I'm really on my game, it's twice a day. The truth is, it's usually just once a day.
How many minutes?
20.
Each.
20 for sure. And I never miss on the timing. So I have a little, the iPhone clock. I don't think I've ever gone less than 20. Always 20 minutes.
Home or at work?
Both.
Okay.
Both home and at work. And life is really good when I can fit two of them in. And let me tell you, you can always make time for anything that's important. You'll never hear me say I don't have time, because I do have time. It's just a matter of making that time.
So you said you do it at work?
I do.
So
just shut the door, turn out the light, and meditate for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So now everyone knows what you're actually doing in there with the lights off, Chuck.
Actually, you know what I do? I'll go to my office is, there's way too much going on in my office, and it even has a window so people would see me. So I'll usually go to an empty office and shut the door.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What has and so and it's very TM is mantra based, right? So are you pretty faithful to repeat it? And I'm not going to ask you to tell me what it is, but you start reciting the mantra right away, and it's the same thing for 20 minutes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Bringing all of your attention to the words and the sensations, the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically what it does is the way I describe it, it just kind of shuts your mind down for 20 minutes, by focusing, bringing the focus in. And I've often heard people say there's no such thing as a bad meditation practice. So many people are intimidated by meditation because they go, I can't go 20 minutes. Well, guess what? I can't either. But, I'll go 10, 15 at a time, and then, I'll break.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean I'll lose my attention, and my mind will start wandering. And you just bring the attention back.
That's
to
it.
The mantra. That's all you get.
And that's what people don't get is that's part of the meditation.
That's part of the practice.
That's what you're supposed to do, and it gets easier.
That's actually part of the exercise.
That's
You're right on. You're absolutely right on.
And it's
the ability to do that.
And it's a win. Each time you do it, it's like you're scoring a point.
Correct.
Right? I mean, and honestly, I hear all the time, I cannot shut my mind off. You're not supposed to really try to. You're supposed to simply be aware of what it's doing.
Right.
And then the only volition, right? The only the thing you're supposed to try to do, the only trying is noticing when your mind wanders, and then noticing what it's doing, and then just bringing it back to the mantra or the breath or whatever.
Exercise, yeah.
What kind of changes have you experienced since you've started doing it?
It's funny you ask that, because I really didn't know what to expect. Now, a good friend of mine told me that he said, "Oh, you're going to practice meditation. That'll build your compassion." And I'm thinking to myself, why would that build compassion? What's that got to do with anything? I was doing it for stress reduction. And I did notice, though, after a year, I start looking at people as almost like they're my relatives, and that would be compassion. You know, you look at someone and you care about them more than you did a year ago. That would be that's a change that I did notice.
Did you notice any change in self-compassion?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I got to think about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to think about that. I'm pretty hard on myself. So has that gotten better? I don't know about that one, Alex. I'm still pretty hard on myself. Yeah.
Well, the thing about TM is that's the only, that mantra, that's your only kind of meditating that you're doing, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, so here, let me put a bug in your ear about this.
Right.
And I'm never one to suggest that anyone change what's working.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, so the meditation that I do is guided meditations, right? So I use different apps. Like the one I love is called 10% Happier, but then there's this one called Insight Timer. There's one called Headspace, which is fantastic. And it is so attuned to you and what you are looking for, right? You choose basically what you want to get out of the guided meditation. So 10% Happier, right? Like my favorite ones are the simplest ones, the ones that are just pure mindful meditations or insight meditations. That's where you're focusing on your breath and on what your thoughts are doing, on the sensations of your body against the floor or the cushion or the back of your chair or whatever, right? Pure mindfulness of, your senses, right? Those are my favorites, and those are the ones that I tend to get the most out of. But they've got gratitude meditations. They've got
loving kindness,
self-compassion meditations, right? And these are all guided ones. They tend to be more verbal in the beginning, and then the words kind of trail off, and then it's just silent in the second in the second half. It tends to be that way, but I love it. I love to hear successful people tell me that they meditate. It's a nice reinforcement
that the world's going to be okay.
It's hard, plus it's hard. I kind of feel like the more people that meditate, the fewer jerks they're going to be.
That is so true. I think you're right about that.
How did you get into TM in the first place?
Man, I'd heard celebrities talk about it over the years, and I just started writing it down, and it was like on a to-do list for like 5 or 6 years. And, I finally realized, okay, I'm never going to do this unless I just book it now. Like I just literally went online one day and just booked it. I got to do this now because it's kind of an aggravation. You have to, for Transcendental Meditation, it was a weekend of training, and which is fine, but it's an hour at a time, so it's not like all weekend, but you show up somewhere on a Saturday, then you show up somewhere on a Sunday, then you show up somewhere on a Monday, and then you're done. But it's it's just one more thing you got to add to your schedule and get it done. It's about $1,000, to do it, to pay the fee and be trained in it and all that. So, it's just,
well, were you telling me that you're a Stern fan?
I did.
Howard Stern is big into TM.
Yeah, big into TM. Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, is he?
Jerry Seinfeld's really big into Jerry Seinfeld's been. I've heard Jerry Seinfeld say it's like one of the most important things he does.
Yeah.
Is,
yeah. I mean,
it's cumulative too.
For sure. So the areas where I've noticed improvement for myself are definitely attention.
Yeah.
Equanimity, in the sense that I don't get as jerked around by my emotions as I once did. I still do sometimes, but much less than I used to.
Yeah.
And definitely compassion. Just self-awareness and
how long you've been practicing for?
Like 12 years.
No, 12
years. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I remember it was probably like 07, 08 when I first started. But I lapse sometimes. It is not every day. I try to do 15 to 20 minutes every day, but sometimes I go weeks, and without, I don't know, life just kind of gets away from me. And I just don't. So I've got a good streak going now. And
the one thing I did notice about it is I feel like reality is starting to make a lot more sense too. Like, I used to get bent out of shape about just about everything throughout the day. And now it's not so much that I changed. It's just that I started to notice what's really a big deal and what's not. I mean, the same things are still happening to me on a daily basis. And it's not that I'm even choosing to label them differently. I'm just seeing them differently.
Right.
You know, something will go wrong one day, and I'll be like, yeah, I've seen that before, and this too shall pass, and you know, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
it's not going to impact me that much. It's almost like the way I see things are changing.
Yeah. Do you notice sometimes that, like, to that point, that you become aware? I notice I become aware more when my mind starts to futurize, or when I get away from the present moment.
Yep, right.
You know, I start thinking about, you know, when I'm worrying about the future.
That's the death rattle.
Or regret about the past, or ruminating about the past. Yeah, it's like, and then 10 minutes have gone by, and then you've been playing with your kid the whole time, and
terrible. Yep.
You're not there. You know,
we're all there. Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah,
all the time. Yeah, yeah.
It helps in that way. Meditation definitely helps stay present.
Well, yeah, because think about it. That's where your mind wandering.
Right.
And you've been trained now to bring it back to the present.
Right.
Like, to your point.
No, that's exactly right. We are going to take a very short break, Chuck. And when we come back, we are going to go down the long and winding road that is the lightning round.
Okay. Oh, I'm all for
the
lightning round. I'm ready.
This could be the most this part of your day right here. This is a complex road we're going to go down. I think you'll do fine though. You might want to get a meditation session in right now.
Okay.
Though. We'll be right back, folks.
All right.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. I'm CEO of the Gertzberg Law Firm and Cover My Six. And I wanted to share with you something we figured out long ago. The biggest value lawyers can give their clients is not getting them out of trouble. It's helping them avoid emergencies before they blow up. That's what Cover My Six is all about. To help you see why we're so confident in this audit, we're offering a no-cost, no-obligation business vulnerability assessment. My business lawyers will meet with you in person and go over your customer contracts, your employee handbooks, and other key legal documents, and identify any legal minefields they see. We'll also give you guidance on how to stop those minefields from destroying your business. We know lawsuits cost businesses far more than money, but we also know that most of them are entirely preventable, and we know how to stop them before they start. Go to covermysix.com to see if you qualify and sign up today. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show. Chuck Mullen, you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready.
What is the non-religious book whose words you apply the most in your life on a day-to-day basis?
That book would be, Alex, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
I know it well.
Yeah.
You like that?
I love that book. I've probably read it 100 times.
Is that right?
I've probably read it 100 times. Very important book to me, yeah.
You know, Chuck, I will tell you, for a managing partner of a business services firm, you know, once you start peeling the layers of the onion back, who knew that you were into such cool shit?
Yeah, I have to be though, man. I gotta tell you, I got so many balls in the air. Yeah. I'd go crazy if I didn't latch onto this stuff.
I love that. I love that book, but like 10 to 15% of it is just too out there for me. Okay. I can't, you know, like, but like most of it is a lot of what we were talking about with meditation. It's, I mean, that's what the power of now is. It's
correct.
Focus on this moment.
Right. Yeah.
But that's interesting. You like that book? Huh?
I love that book. It's my favorite of all time. It kind of changed my life in many ways. Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that? People would yell at me for not following up on what you just said.
Well, you know, kind of what you were just saying before that, you know, I think Eckhart Tolle did a really nice job of explaining why we have to stay in the present moment. First of all, it truly is all we have. And we know that, but he expands on why it's all we have, you know. And it's a disaster to go beyond the present. People mistake planning for, which is important, with ruminating over the future and the past. So people say, I have to plan. I got to think of the future. And the truth is not really. Planning is something you do in the present, where you do a mind projection of the future. And it's very important in business.
Yeah.
But when you're done planning, get back to the present.
And by the way, plan your planning.
Correct.
Don't plan randomly while you're trying to be present. Be present.
That's exactly
until
right.
you want to do your planning.
Right.
Brilliant. You are a professional boxer. What song is playing as you enter the ring?
How about Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails? What do you think of that?
Who are you, Chuck Mullen? Oh, my goodness.
blew
my mind.
I'm an outdated middle-aged guy.
Wow. Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails.
It's a good song, huh?
You know, Chuck, your stock has really skyrocketed with me during this podcast. That's a great choice. It's a great choice.
It's a good song, right? I mean,
it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Brings the energy level up, right?
Well, yeah. It does also make me want to beat the shit out of somebody. So I appreciate that. That's the song you hear. If you could ask one question of anyone who ever lived, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
I would ask Steve Jobs. I would ask him if he imagined the iPod during his famous LSD trip. You know, he was pretty cryptic about his LSD trip. He said he tried LSD once, and he said it was one of the most 5 significant events of his life. And I always wonder what he meant by that.
Yeah.
You know, because he did it before he was a big-time Apple guy, right?
Yeah.
He was just a kid, or he's a teenager or something like that. But it was before he founded Apple. And what he meant, I always wanted him to expand on that. And I always wanted to hear, during your LSD trip, did you actually create Apple products? Is that how you came up with the iPod and the iPad and all these products?
That's a great question.
He never expanded on that, and now he's dead.
One of the ironies of the lightning round is that there's nothing quick about it. So I'm going to take a sideways here for a second. So I had coffee with a really great friend and client of mine the other day, and he walked me through his ayahuasca trip.
Oh my
he
goodness.
just took, right? And I'm not going to belabor it, but I will say 2 things about it. One is so for folks who don't know, ayahuasca is like peyote. It's a hallucinogenic, but non-chemical, right? It's an organic substance that comes from some plant, and you go to this Native American reservation, and there's a shaman. There's a medicine man or a woman who walks you, who's your guide through this trip that takes like 5 hours. The person who this person was before they went on this ayahuasca trip, and the person they are today, definitely different. And the way they described to me what they saw, right? And this is a person who I could never imagine to be a spiritual person at all. Very logical,
cool.
very left brain, very technical, very atheist, very just, black and white. Had a very descriptive and very clear vision of seeing God, seeing a force, seeing an energy, and seeing order out of life where there was chaos before.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I hear that, and Michael Pollan's got a great book about it called How to Change Your Mind, like brilliant people that are doing things with hallucinogenics now. Silicon Valley is like huge with it these days. But there are these emotional changes and these spiritual changes that people are experiencing that isn't just like for hippies. And that isn't just for, like just people. I mean, people used to think that it was just a drug addict thing.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it really is a lot of people these days, a lot of very smart people are using psychedelic drugs, hallucinogenic drugs for to gain clarity and to gain ideas. Anyway,
I do want to tell you this too, but something people don't realize about meditation is I've heard people say, I'm afraid I'm going to, lose my mojo or my ambition. And I always say, no, if anything, my ambition has gone up.
Yeah.
I can get more done. I'm more excited because that nervous energy that you're trying to combat with the meditation, it's not your friend. The nervous energy, people think it helps them. It really doesn't. It's a hindrance.
Yeah.
It gets in the way,
Yeah.
and it actually runs your battery down.
Right.
But to be at peace, to be relaxed, that ambition doesn't go away. If anything, it goes up.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Other than meditation,
Yeah.
what is a habit or routine that you do on a regular basis that has given you the most mileage?
Oh man, I was going to say meditation.
I
So you
know.
said other than
I took it out.
meditation.
I knew you were going to say that. What's number 2?
Oh man, I got to come back to that.
All right.
I got to think about
That's cool.
that one. I can't have too many good habits.
Put a pin in that one.
Put a pin in that one.
I mean, you could say intermittent fasting.
Well,
Just as
I'd
easily.
like to say that. So
All
intermittent fasting, I would like to say that,
All right.
Alex, for 300.
The judges find that answer to be acceptable.
All right.
Describe a time in your life when you had a massive personal or business failure and how you bounced back from it, assuming that you bounced back from it.
Yeah. I was thinking about, when I think about that question, I've been fortunate enough. I guess I wouldn't classify any failures as massive failures, but what I do have is death by 1,000 cuts. I have failures all the time, every day, and especially because I beat up on myself pretty good, which I probably shouldn't wear that as a badge of honor. That's not good, but
You expect a lot from yourself.
I expect that's a good way.
And that is a good thing.
I think that is a good thing. Yes. So I fail all the time. I fail a lot. And it hurts. What I would say is how I've come back from all of those failures is I make sure I hate repeating a failure. I can get high on overcoming a failure. So if I fail at something today, what I will do is at the end of the day, I will find a solution to that failure so I don't repeat it. And then when I encounter that situation again and I overcome it, I feel really good because I remember that I failed it. But my watchword is, or my watch phrase is, I will carry on. I carry on. So no matter how bad I embarrass myself, no matter how badly I did at something, I tell myself, I carry on. I move forward. I carry on. I always get back on that horse. Always. And I think if there's any one thing to success that's above everything else, it's persistence.
Yeah.
Constantly trying.
I don't think that you get to be the managing partner of a fast-growing firm like Apple without that constant failing.
Oh,
right.
Constant.
Yeah. I really do believe that if you're not constantly failing, you're not reaching far enough. You're not trying hard enough.
Right. I've heard you say that in your podcast before.
Yeah. It's
too.
so, I think that is the life of every leader.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because you're always putting yourself out there.
Yeah. You gotta.
If nothing else, maybe an interaction with a client or an employee or whatever just didn't go right.
Right.
You made a fool out of yourself. According to our strict opinions, we didn't do it as well. Yeah.
What is the metric that you use to determine whether you've had a good day?
How long I was present.
Oof. Gosh, I love it.
Yeah, that is ultimate success, in my opinion. No matter where you are in the world, no matter what you're doing, no matter how old you are, young you are, if the magnitude of which you were present for the day is ultimate success. It's everything.
Yeah.
It is everything. I know a lot of multimillionaires who are not in the present moment, so the money doesn't matter.
Yeah. And they're not, and I think they're less happy.
Oh, terrible. Yeah.
How will you know whether you have had a life well lived?
By how my grandkids turn out.
Oof.
What do you think of that?
I like it.
Now, that's a pretty high standard, too, by the way. But I heard Stephen Covey say that one time that we're actually raising our grandkids. You got to think about when you're raising your kids, you're raising your grandkids. So my kids are just now grown. They're both in college. And, I'm going to kind of step back and see how their kids turn out. And maybe I'll say, all right.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll judge myself based on that.
It's a good metric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't turn out to be shitheads right now.
Right. We hope. Well, I mean, they're going to be at some point. Hopefully they don't stay shitheads, right?
Exactly.
We're all shitheads at some point. Chuck, favorite time period in history to live in other than today?
Oh, wow. I would say the 50s.
All right.
The 50s, yeah.
Just some nostalgia there.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I bet you if we went back there, we wouldn't last more than 2 hours. We'd be so bored. You know what I mean? Like it's easy for us, Alex, to be nostalgic about the 50s because we didn't live through the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back there, there's none of the conveniences and all that stuff. So, but there is a lot of nostalgia. When I see shows and movies from the 50s, we just got back from the war and all that. It looks like a pretty nice time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, but it's definitely the more things change, the more things stay the same situation. Because so I'm reading this book right now called The Traitor and the Spy, and it's about this KGB agent that the British turned into a double agent. True story. Mm-hmm. Ben McIntyre, fantastic book. But as I was reading it, I've been reflecting on how in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and part of the 80s, the Russians were the evil empire.
Right.
And we saw them as being, just a hair away from Armageddon.
Yeah.
They had nukes, we had nukes.
Right.
There's all these wars happening around. I mean, this containment, they were the sworn enemy of the United States.
Right.
And, the Red Scare is happening here,
Right.
Joe McCarthy, right?
Yeah.
And people think about, it being a simpler time.
Yeah.
It's actually, there's so many similarities to the way we are today. Some people would say it's still the Russians. Others would say it's, extremists,
Right.
and whether it's religious extremism or whatever, but there's always an enemy.
Right.
There's always terror, there's always fear.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress from your lightning round, Chuck. That was a curveball. That wasn't in your original list. Here's another one. What's an assumption that you had for a long time that you later found to be totally bullshit?
What's terrible is I know I've been there. I know I have felt this sensation of having an answer for this question. I just can't think of what it was, where you just smack yourself in the head and go, my gosh, I was so wrong. Here's what I will say. I have so many answers to that question. It has happened so many times. The one thing I try not to do anymore is I try not to assume I know exactly what happened, because I am always wrong on my assumptions. So what I mean by that is, if something happens at work, the first assumption is typically wrong. If something bad happened, usually you think to yourself, that person did that, or they said that, or they meant that. And it's always wrong.
Right.
It's not exactly as you predict it happens.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how I'll answer that question, is when something bad happens, you got to put a space around it and go, wait a second. I can't assume I know exactly what happened there. Yeah. Don't go with your first instinct on that stuff.
Gosh, that's such a good one.
Can't tell you how many times it's gotten me in trouble before I learned that lesson.
And we're just so biased. The stories that we come up with in our mind are
and it's so inaccurate.
There's a book I read a while ago called, and I haven't finished. I need to. It's called The Art of Thinking Clearly.
Oh,
it's by a German guy. I can't remember his name, but it goes through about 120 different cognitive biases that create the thinking patterns that we have, we're wrong way more than we're right.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
When we try to imagine what's going to happen, what other people are thinking, we're wrong more often than we're right. And there's all these biases that are working there. That was a really good answer, Chuck. Before we go to the last, final, by far the most difficult lightning round question, I call it the Widowmaker, Chuck. Is there anything just in the course of the last hour and a half that I didn't ask you that you wish I had or that maybe I should have?
I think, one question I would have I would like to address is, what's the future of Apple Growth Partners, and why is it we're in such growth mode? For me, I go back to, I serve two different parties. One is the employees and one is the entrepreneur, the client. And I feel like I have a fiduciary responsibility to keep growing this firm for the client and for the employees that are getting up every day and reporting to work at my establishment here, our establishment, me and the partners. We have this firm. And I feel a fiduciary duty to keep growing it and being more exciting, more relevant every day. If I don't do that, we will start to stagnate and become boring. Yeah. And boring is probably the worst outcome for a guy like me. Yeah. I hate to be bored.
I think that you have your primary constituencies dead to rights. Exactly right. And if you look at our core purpose right over here. Oh no.
There it is.
There it is, our purpose.
And I like that. Right? It says to the listeners, it says deliver an exceptional experience for our clients and our team.
That's who you got to care about. And you got to care about them equally. You cannot you cannot elevate one at the expense of the other.
Correct.
Right? Your reason for getting out of bed and coming to work is to serve your clients and your team.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
I love it. We got a lot in common.
We do. We
All
really
right.
do.
You ready for the Widowmaker?
Sure.
What is an embarrassing thing about yourself that only a few people know, and for bonus points, that nobody knows? Man, smoke is coming out of his ears, ladies and gentlemen. We may see a complete nervous breakdown right now.
I've done some really stupid things in my life. Okay, so I got to come up with something. So, I've run some marathons in my lifetime, and those are harsh. Those are hard. And I threw up on some girl at the finish line. It was my first marathon, and I guess this is pretty embarrassing. So it was at the time, at least. So this was back when when you run a race now and you cross the line, you're done. But this was back like 2002. They'd tear your badge off as you cross the finish line. So you'd cross the finish line, and they couldn't register you until they tore something off of your badge. So I decided to dead sprint the last eighth of a mile of this marathon in downtown Cleveland. And I mean,
that's what you're supposed to do.
I guess so. But I had drank a ton of Gatorade at the stops, and probably 5-to-1 ratio of Gatorade to water. So I am loaded with Gatorade. This is like a movie from the 80s or something where you start. What was that movie where they start vomiting on each other? You know what I'm talking about.
Stand by Me.
Yeah, Stand by Me. So I felt like so. I crossed the finish line, and we come to a dead stop. We're all in a crowd because people are getting their numbers torn off of them, and that's not good to go from a run like that to a dead stop. And I did. There's some poor girl in front of me, and I just threw up all over her.
Wow.
Right? And she was horrified, and I didn't blame her. And it wasn't intentional, but it was pretty embarrassing.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Everybody cleared around me.
Gosh, today that would be like a viral video.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thank God
that's a good one.
Back then. So there we go. There's an embarrassment.
The judges find that answer completely acceptable.
Oh, good.
Nice job.
Good,
nice
good.
job, John. Chuck, I officially declare this podcast episode a complete success.
All right, great.
You good?
Likewise. Yeah, this
Happy
has
with
been
it?
great. I really
love
appreciate, Alex, you bringing me here and inviting me here on your show. This is great.
That was fantastic.
You got a great show. I have podcast envy. I will tell you this. Because I do a podcast myself.
Let's talk about that. We haven't talked about that yet. Yeah.
But it only goes about 20 to 40 minutes. I admire your stamina. I'll pull up your shows and it says like an hour and a half, an hour and 40. I'm like, how do you possibly talk about it?
Doesn't this guy have a job? Doesn't he have shit to do?
I was wondering how you got your title. I would think that somebody would have taken your title already. You got a neat title.
Oh, Best Podcast Ever?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I might change it. I don't know yet.
I wouldn't change it. I was surprised you had the rights to
Really?
it. It's a great name.
Well, thank you. It didn't seem like an hour and a half, right? It kind of flew
not
by,
at all.
Right?
Flew right by.
I had fun. I had fun talking
as well.
to you. I really appreciate that you came over. I appreciate that you had me on your podcast, which is called Sliced.
Yeah.
People can find that. I have it on my Stitcher, but I think it's on iTunes and all the other places.
The other
your
major
girl,
ones.
what's your co-host? What's her
Brittany
name?
White is our marketing director.
White. She's
Yes,
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys got a really cool thing there.
We do.
And folks, you want to check that out. If you want to get a 30 to 40 minute blast of education, check that out. And then when you're done, come back here for an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh gosh. My goodness.
Folks, here, listen. If you've listened this far, if you still hear Chuck and me talking, it means only one of two things. You are Chuck's wife. Thank you. What's her name?
Veronica.
Veronica, thank you for listening.
Oh, Veronica is definitely not listening.
Oh,
to
she's
this.
not?
No, she hears enough of me.
No, I'm sure Veronica, I know you're listening. I appreciate you listening. You've got 2 kids.
I do.
Thank you both for listening. So you're probably in Chuck's immediate family. Or you are one of the many hundreds, possibly thousands. We're still fiddling with numbers. We just learned that we use this thing called Libsyn, and it downloads the number of people who listen to you. You got a spreadsheet, and then we just learned that it was only pulling from like 4 of the 7 places that people listen to our podcast on.
Okay.
So it's somewhere in the hundreds, but we think it might be in the thousands. So if you're one of those people, or Chuck's wife and kids, or I presume some of Chuck's employees who are now going to have lots of ammunition for making fun of Chuck.
Or you or me, right? We're going to listen to this, right?
I mean, I don't know. We just sat through it.
I know.
Yeah, I don't want to hear myself.
If I have any road trips planned to California or something where I've got this kind of time to listen.
So if you're one of those people, if you're still listening, you would be doing me a great favor by going to like iTunes or there's a way to leave a review. Do that. Do me a favor. What else are you going to do? You're sitting around. You're not doing anything anyway. You're listening to this podcast and you're enthralled. You're loving it. Leave a review. All right. Rate us. You can go to Facebook. We've got a page on Facebook for Best Podcast Ever. You want to hit like there. And any other way that you can listen to us, you are able to subscribe. So do that. And if you're still not sure, you can go to thebestpodcastever.com and hit subscribe there. And then what happens is you will be the first to know when when another episode drops. And you get news and you get interesting things, and you become, most importantly, a fan of Best Podcast Ever. And for that, I am eternally grateful because I have fun doing this. Chuck, you had fun, right?
Can I have a piece of toast or something? I'm starving.
For sure.
No, I had a great time. The toast is, and I'm exhausted.
Chuck is hallucinating right now. We need to get him.
Are you a cricket? Did you just turn into a cricket?
We might need to get like an IV into this man. Folks, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. We will see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we thank you for listening. And remember to check out the Gertzberg Law Firm. Whether you are starting, running, growing, or transitioning a business, or if you need to create or update your wills, trust, or estate plan, our team will give you an incredible level of personalized attention and a passionate commitment to meet your objectives. We are veteran-owned, and our award-winning lawyers have the highest ranking from Super Lawyers and Avo. We have also recently received the coveted Weatherhead 100 Upstarts Award for a second year in a row, and we are among the first Ohio business law firms to offer our clients a non-billable alternative on every single matter we handle for them, and opt out of the billable hour. What we are most proud of, though, are the many things our clients rely on us for. We successfully defend them in court, but we also help them avoid the courtroom with our Cover My Six service. We protect their assets through good estate and succession planning, and we assist our clients in many non-legal business services like recruiting and business development. We want our clients to feel confident in their choices and to help them resolve any issues or potential problems quickly and efficiently so they can get back to what they love, running their businesses. More than just litigators, we are trusted advisors, problem solvers, and growers of businesses. Let us help you and your company. Call us or find us online to learn more. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.